Very good evening and welcome to this edition of Breeding to Win, a very full show, and we're bringing you the show from Port Elizabeth. We're here having a chat with Yvette Bremner and her team, and we've also got Andrew Bond, who caught up with Adrian Todd regarding the upcoming protocols and his progress thus far. And great that he's got government behind him and he's making some great inroads for us as well. We've got a 3-minute stallion for you to look at, and we also bring you an update on Stallion Coup de Grace. But let's go straight into tonight's show, and it's my great pleasure that I'm going to be chatting to Yvette Bremner, to Carl Hewitson, to Hedley McGrath, and we're going to be discussing the Yvette Bremner Racing Yard here out in Port Elizabeth. They have been dubbed the Giant Slayers. They've done really well in raiding some of the major centres, the likes of National Park, Princess Rebel, obviously Copper Parade going back a few years, and a great pleasure to chat now to Yvette Bremner. Yvette, certainly flying pretty well at the moment. You're right up there in the rankings.
Yeah, it's nice. I'd say it's a little bit of pressure, but you know what? It's been quite easy this time around.
In terms of your racing career and how you started in racing, I think a lot of the guys out there obviously know that you, Yvette Bremner, you've got a racing yard in PE. But how long back does your racing career start, and how did you get involved?
I got involved with Mr. Creef. I didn't know, I must say, when I was at school, I didn't know that you actually could, as a woman, have a career in racing. It was a very close shop, and I think it's really broadened its horizons now as far as women are concerned. I started working for Mr. Creef when I was 19 years old, and I know a lot of people didn't give me much opportunity or much hope of staying around, hanging in there. Yeah, 8 years later, I was still there.
And in terms of starting on your own, how long have you been Yvette Bremner Racing in terms of running your own yard?
I actually started in 2002, and it's very clear in my memory because from Mr. Creef, I moved on to Dumukutsi, and I stayed there for about 4 years. Then Paul Lafferty was looking for someone to run his satellite yard in Port Elizabeth. MJ Werdendal actually put my name forward, and he approached me, and I said yes. And I must say, Mr. Kutsi was very good to me because he said, go, take a chance. If it doesn't work, you can always come back. So when you've got a cushion, it's always easier to make a decision. So anyway, it worked out quite well. It worked out very well in the end. And I'll never forget, Paul offered me the yard, and I was actually going on leave. And we went to Montana, we did a cattle drive, and we came back, and I said, I don't want to do this, you know. So anyway, when I got back, I said, I'm quite happy to be an assistant. I'm not sure I want to be a trainer. And then he said, well, either you find another job or you take over the yard, so which I did. So fortunately, it worked out very well. Fantastic.
You managed to build yourself a really good team. You've got Carl, you've obviously got Rocky now, and Hedley behind the scenes with the owners and everything like that. And it's gone really well for you. But just tell us about your team that currently exists and what their roles are.
We sort of... we all play our parts, and it's like a well-oiled wheel. We all really work well together. Carl and I discuss nominations, decide where horses are going to run. Rocky sort of runs the yard, where we're going to, like, he'll do the bandages, the injecting, the sorting the grooms out. Carl and I sort of do the feeding and that kind of thing, working that out. And then obviously we got the 2 jockeys that ride for us. So yeah, it all works very well together.
And race planning in terms of, we chatted to Carl about your raiding ability and how successful you've been when taking horses from PE to the major centres and that. Who goes through the planning and the programming to decide, listen, we're going to take National Park up to Joburg, we think he's good enough?
Carl and I both do. I think we sort of got into a good situation with Copper Parade and learning how to travel with him, and he was a good basis for us because although he was a very temperamental horse, he loved traveling. If he saw, he wouldn't run as well at home as he did when he was away. Okay. If he saw the float, it was like loading a dog up and taking it to the beach, and the dog loves the beach. If a truck pulled up, Copper Parade just became a different horse. From being that stubborn, obstinate, difficult character to I just want to do. He was just so different. So I think when it comes to travelling, you have to find the horse that's in his comfort zone, travelling. And I will say a very, very important thing is that horse has to get on with his groom. Because horses are herd animals, and if that horse feels he's part of the groom and the groom's part of him, they really, it works.
It certainly does, and you've had such terrific success with your Raiders. You're probably one of the bravest yards in terms of taking from a smallish centre to take on the big guns, and you've beaten some of the hot pot favourites in some of these big races.
I will say this, Headley's been a very good inspiration in that sense, because I probably wouldn't have been that brave to travel, but he's definitely been putting the correct amount of pressure on, maybe sometimes too much pressure. But then I've got Carl to fall back on, and then we discuss things and we work it out. And yeah, we've worked out a good program when it comes to travelling.
You've mentioned earlier on as well, you've got two really good jockeys for you. One of them is obviously Lyle, who obviously forms almost part of your family.
I've known Lyle since he was a tiny child. Because obviously we've been family friends forever, and as long as I've known Lyle, he's always wanted to be a jockey. And I know Carl always said he wouldn't encourage him, but he wouldn't discourage him. The only time you'd say to him, you can't become a jockey, is if he has a weight problem. And I think a lot of people don't realise that Lyle, because he's such an intelligent child, being a straight A student, everyone wanted him to go and study and become something, and all Lyle wanted to do was become a jockey. And I just said to him, speaking for myself, because I didn't know that women could actually have a career in racing.
Yes.
And I must say, like I've said before, it's changed. When I started off, it was so difficult, but it really has improved for women. Yeah, and I just said, you know what, your intelligence isn't going anywhere, but your weight might. So
Yes.
rather give it a bash first and become a jockey. And then if that doesn't work out, at least you've had a couple of years of being a jockey. And if it doesn't work out, you can always go and be whatever you want to be, you know, something else.
I mean, he was champion jockey of South Africa as an apprentice.
Yeah, Lyle's dedication is unbelievable. I remember standing on the bank of the round track watching the horses work, and Lyle had ridden a horse and came back and stood next to me, and he said, can you imagine if I can ride for you one day? And I mean, never mind riding for me, he's riding for top yard in the in the country. So you know what, forget riding for us. We're small fry compared to where he's riding
coming to PE to ride for you.
Yes, I think that's what keeps him probably grounded, and he's so loyal and so good, you know, and maybe sometimes his loyalty to a horse will be to his disadvantage, because he's got an affinity with a horse, and he'll stay with it whether it's going to be a difficult race or not difficult race, you know. And I think he's made a couple of those mistakes with Sean Terry's yard, you know, like staying with being loyal, you know. Yeah, but he's a fantastic jockey. He's gone far beyond what I thought he'd be, you know, but it's just, I'm incredibly proud of him.
Yeah, he's almost a complete natural as well. He just really sits so nicely on a horse, doesn't he? And like you say, very intelligent and just a consummate professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the basis of most yards, most successful yards, you need to have a really solid owner base. And I think you guys have that. Now, obviously, it's very tricky because you might miss out a name here and upset somebody, but you've got the likes of Brahm, who's been a big supporter, Bryn Ressel, who obviously with National Park as well, Greg Bortz, the Phoenixes that have been with you for forever. And that's really what yards need, because you need to have that continuous roll of fresh blood coming into it.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark Wright is probably one of my first owners, even before Headley became involved in the yard. So he's really an owner that puts absolutely no pressure on you. I know he's a big punter, and that's the part of racing that he enjoys. But as far as that goes, I've never been under pressure with him. And if we've gone to the sales and said to him, Mark, you can take a leg in this horse, then he'll always say yes.
Yeah.
You know, Bryn's been absolutely marvellous. Love him to bits. He's the most easy, happy-go-lucky guy I've ever come across. And then Brahm, well, he's like family. We spend so many holidays with him. Mrs. Phoenix, Mr. Phoenix, well, they sort of set us up for travelling with the Copper Parade.
Yes.
And then you probably couldn't get a better marketing person than Headley in anyone's yard. I know I've been around a few times and people always go like, Headley's the best horse in your yard. Well, he is, you know. And then Greg Bortz, very much behind the scenes, lovely guy, really so easy. And the nice thing about Greg is he always wants what's best for the horse, and that makes my job so much easier.
Absolutely. You mentioned Headley, and I think it'd be remiss of us not to talk about him. He's got the most unbelievable enthusiasm for the game, hasn't he?
Absolutely. I think he drives me insane sometimes, but you've got to love him for it, because his favourite saying all the time, whenever he watches a big race, if you don't have a ticket, you haven't got a chance. And yeah, I think it's sad for owners if they don't have that enthusiasm, because that's what you should have. And you know what? We take knocks. We all take knocks. Horses don't run how we expect them to run, but they're horses. And I'll never forget, a friend of mine told me once, the quote is, that's why we have the race. There's no certainty. So you know what? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So you got to take both.
Well, you've proven that as well, because the horses don't know that PE horses aren't supposed to win Group 1 races in Johannesburg either. So you've got an opportunity with everything. The 20 grand horses don't know that they only cost 20 grand either.
Exactly. You know what? And I mean, I know we ended up with Princess Rebel because no one wanted her. And we just bought her 20,000 rand off the farm. It's hard to say, like, when we bought her, I didn't think it was a lot of money for her. But when she got off the float, I went like, oh my gosh, she's tiny. And she only measures 14.3 now. And I know we offered her to a couple of owners to take her, and they just said no, thank you very much, but keep us in mind for the next one, So Hedley and I ended up with her, and we ended up giving Mark Wright a share because he's been such a loyal supporter to the yard. And we have a lot of fun together, so yeah.
You've also got a couple of local breeders here that obviously have supported you guys big as well.
Yeah, Ashley's he breeds a really, really good horse. I mean, he's up with the best of them, really. Lovely, lovely horses. They've done so well for us. And obviously Nikki Bartlett, take my hat off to her. After her husband passed away, she carried on, and she worked as hard as anyone, really. So, and she's done well. She's done really, really well. And we saw National Park, although she never bred him, but she raised him from a youngster. And I picked him at her farm because he was absolutely amazing.
Fantastic stuff. Now, Yvette, the big question is the National Yearling Sales, not too far away, and obviously your team will be going up in that. Is there a special way that you look for horses, or you mentioned to me earlier on today that sometimes horses find you?
It's very difficult because you obviously like a certain type of horse, and I definitely tend to go to a certain breed of horse. Sometimes you'll stumble upon them, or they'll find their way to you. Yeah, I think good horses find their way to you. I know a lot of expensive horses haven't really performed, and a lot of cheap horses, like you've just said, have performed really well. So I think there are a lot of good horses out there for every trainer and every owner to buy. So, don't be shy. Buy them. It doesn't matter what the price is. If that's the horse that you want, that's the horse you got to buy.
If people are watching Breeding to Win and decide, we'd love to send Yvette a horse, can they contact you before you go up to Nationals?
Yes, for sure they can.
You've got space?
Well, make space if we don't have space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you've also got a sponsor. World Sports Betting have come to the party, and they sponsor your yard. And they've been great sponsors for racing, actually. They've sponsored a whole lot of races here in PE. They constantly are putting money back into the game, which is great for a betting operation. What's your deal with them? And obviously they give you quite a lot of nice mileage as well. And your grooms today, when we were at the yard, they looked immaculate. Didn't
they love it? They were so proud of their uniforms. It's like Christmas come in May, really, because that's normally this time of the year that they get their kit, and they absolutely love it. Yeah, they were demanding a photograph of all of them together. World Sports Betting has been very good to me. They weren't actually owners before they'd already sponsored me as just a betting site, and they've actually bought a couple of horses, and I think they're nice horses, and they've probably chosen horses that are going to be 3-year-olds and progressive horses, not 2-year-olds that come early, So yeah, they're a good bunch of guys. I think Rainer does a really good job marketing them, because just fun to be with, no pressure. It's just, they're very enthusiastic about racing.
I'm going to put you on the spot with one final question. Who's the favourite horse that you've trained? And it doesn't have to be one that's won a group race, just something that you really bonded with, that you got on really well and really wanted you to get up in the morning to go to work to see.
Oh, there are lots of them. My whole yard, I'll walk around. I know I absolutely kill my daughter when she comes to the track with me in the mornings, because when I check the yard, it'll take me 45 minutes, because I've got to talk to every single horse. But I think in the long run, over the years, probably a horse called Wakara.
Okay.
I got him from Mike Tokak. He was not a broken horse, but very talented horse, but he'd really gone off racing, and we thought of retiring him, and he just turned around one day and I phoned Diane and she said she'll speak to Mike about keeping him. And yeah, he won us 8 races. And
Jeez.
yeah, he was brilliant. He won me the EP Sprint, which was my first graded race back in the day. It's not a graded one anymore, it's just a listed one now. But yeah, he did that for me. So no, I love my horses, so I can't pick one.
Is there a race in the country that you'd most like to win? Or you just enjoy competing at the top level?
I'm not one of those people, hey. I just like my horses to do well. If I've battled to get a maiden sound and that maiden wins a race, then I've done my job.
You get the same joy there.
Same joy. I've burst into tears winning a maiden race, and just like I did when National Park won his big race in Joburg, you know. So yeah, no, they're all special. They're all special.
Yvette, you're a yard to follow. We love following your yard and your raiding ability especially, because certainly brings a great dynamic to racing to see the PE horses go and compete at the major centres. We wish you every success going forward, and yeah, we'll be keeping track.
Thank you. And I just want to say, like horses, like you said before, they don't know where they come from or what they cost. So I don't think any PE is really horse country. They do so well that when they come here, it's you know, when you always say horses has a change of scenery and they improve from it. Port Elizabeth is a really, really horse-friendly country, so I think that's got a lot to do with it, not only us.
Well, we're going to be looking forward to it. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Carl Hudson is a valuable member of the Yvette Bremner racing team, assistant trainer. He's got a great history in racing as well. Carl, thanks for joining us with the insert as well.
Only a pleasure.
Now, obviously, you've been with Yvette some time now.
Yeah, this year I'll actually be going on to 10 years. Yeah.
Jeez, and you've survived it.
Just about, just about.
Prior to that, obviously, you've been in racing a long time. Just tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, started early days. Obviously in England, I was with a trainer called Henry Candy, who still trains today. And I had very good grounding there, proper old school, which was fantastic. Didn't enjoy it too much at the time, but you only learn to appreciate things later on. And then from there, I had a chance to go to Belgium. I spent 4 years there, and I met a chap there who introduced me to South Africa. And then pretty much the rest is history. I did, I think it was 5 or 6 seasons in Mauritius. I did 6 years in Malaysia, backwards and forwards all the time. And Port Elizabeth, funny enough, has always kind of been my base. I got married here. We had the 3 kids. Yeah, and then I came back, like I say, 10 years ago. And I came back on an invite from Yvette and Headley, actually. I was here on holiday, and they asked what it would take to come back. So I said a good braai and a nice glass of wine.
Well, certainly they're pretty synonymous with those type of events, aren't they?
They're not bad.
Now, obviously, you've got a very vital role to play, and to a large degree, the Yvette Bremner racing team's been dubbed the Giant Slayers. Now, you've obviously taken some big horses to big races in major centres that were probably regarded as, well, hopeful starters because they've come from so-called minor centre.
Yeah.
But your stats and your strike rate has been immense.
Yeah, we started some years back, actually, with a horse we've still got, Oriental Tiger. We took him to Durban as a youngster. Blaze of Fire. There's been a few. They weren't so successful. They were placed. So if you can call that success, yes, they were placed in graded races. So we were very happy. And of course, all you can do is improve on what you've done, which fortunately we have been able to do. We've got our own little way of travelling. It works for us. Obviously, it's not going to work for everybody else. So, yeah, and things have got better. We've obviously got a better quality of horse as well. And as we've got better horses, we've taken our best ones away. They go away and people look at the Port Elizabeth form, and it's not too shabby. What people don't understand is sometimes some of those runs are prep runs, because we're not, sorry, we're not fortunate to be able to have the grass on a regular basis. So you tend to have to run your horses to get them fit. And that's basically what's happened with a lot of these horses like National Park, Copper Parade in the old days, etc. So yeah, it's been a good run up till now.
Let's talk about National Park, because he was an absolute revelation. The time that he went over the 1,400-metre trip and absolutely annihilated Chimichurri Run, that opened up many eyes in the racing industry.
Yeah, got to be perfectly honest, I wasn't expecting that. We thought he had a winning chance, but that really did blow us all away. We realised then that we had a proper horse, but until then, we thought he was good, but I didn't realise how good he was, and he really levelled his game up. He lifted it properly. Well,
it wasn't a fluke, because his next start, obviously maybe a little bit disappointed, but then after that, geez, he bounced back to his best.
Yeah, he's fantastic. In the Guineas, he was amazing. That was by far his most impressive, by far. And then his last run as well. I mean, we weren't obviously disappointed, but not overly disappointed, because the winner is hailed as being something really special. So to run third to him is no mean feat, you know, and it's probably a stretch too far, the 18. We're not 100% sure about that yet. We might try him again later on. But at this stage, we'll keep him around about a mile.
All right, obviously you've got a couple of races on the agenda in the not too distant future. You're going to be on your travels again. And with another filly, obviously, that came to Cape Town and ran them ragged. She actually accounted for a decent field then, ran them ragged.
Yeah, she's very quick.
Princess Rebel.
Princess Rebel. Things did go away that day. I think everyone was kind of expecting her to come back, which she never did. She's got a very, very high galloping tempo, and she can kick off it. So, yeah, she won a very good race. Her next target will be, she's running here. Like I said, it's going to be a prep run. Win, lose or draw. We're going to take her up to Johannesburg for the computer form and have a crack at that. And then the big fella, National Park, he's going the day before. He'll be in Durban. He's going to go for the KRA Guineas, and we'll have a go for that. Yeah.
Two exciting prospects for you.
Yeah, busy times again.
In terms of, obviously, you've worked with some cracking horses here. You mentioned Copper Parade. You've mentioned a whole host of really talented individuals from Port Elizabeth. Who would you single out as being the horse you've most enjoyed working with?
Oh, that's a bit tough, eh? That's unfair on the owners. So
no, because everyone's got their favourite. Everyone's got their favourite. A few.
I think the favourite horse I've worked with in the yard, and it never travelled. I had a small share in it. Was Blizzard Bell.
Okay.
Because it was Lyle's first winner, and well, it wasn't my first winner since I've been with the vet, but I mean she reeled off 6 in a row, and she was a little superstar. Obviously, National Park and Emma special, you know, but I mean as a personal favourite. That was early days. I'd have to say her. She was great.
I have to touch on, you mentioned Lyle. You must be a very proud dad.
Yeah, super proud. I mean, he's done above and beyond what I ever expected. I thought he'd do very well because he was so single-mindedly determined to do what he wanted to do, and he's done amazing things. So I just hope for him it goes on.
Are you a bit of an armchair rider yourself when you see him riding races?
Most definitely, yeah. Yeah, I'm probably his biggest critic.
But he takes it well, and he listens to you?
I don't tell him half the time because he probably wouldn't take it at all. I'd be too scared to.
But obviously he forms a nice part of the relationship here with the Vet Bremner yard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's grown up as a kid. We've got photos with him as pretty much he's 3-4 years old in the arms of some of our owners in the parade ring with my daughters as well. So yeah, he's been around forever with the girls. Yeah. Great
stuff talking to you as well, and it must be nice being part of a team because you seem quite close-knit.
Yeah, I mean, Headley and Yvette, if anything, more like brothers and sisters, and now we've got Rocky as well. We've had a few come and go, but as we are at the moment, I think it seems pretty solid, you know, and the three of us have always been together anyway for the last 10 years. And before that, I mean, we were all friends before that as well, so it's worked very well.
Well, we're going to be watching on Breeding to Win. We're going to be keeping track of your progress and your travels both to Gauteng again and to KZN, and we wish you everything of the best.
Thanks, fingers crossed. Thank you very much.
But the quiet man behind the scenes of the Vet Bremner racing team is Headley, who you look after the accounts, you obviously attract owners and everything like that, but you must be very proud of what the yard's accomplished.
Granty, you're 100% right. I'm blessed to have Yvette in my life. We've got Carl and Rocky, and we've got a brilliant team behind the scenes, and very fortunate enough, most of my horses in P with Yvette and Carl, and it's all about having fun, Grant. At the end of the day, it's just enjoying racing. I enjoy the riding part, Grant.
Yeah, I thought you would because, geez, you guys have done it well. And I've got to say, you haven't been scared to give it a bash.
I'm on Yvette's back every night. She gets home from work. I said, how those babies doing? I want to have a horse in the nursery. Typical Yvette. She learned from Stanley Creff in the early days, and I'll wait. And I'm yet to have a runner in the nursery, and hopefully this year it might be a noble tune.
Oh, really? Okay, so there's something to look forward to as well. But in terms of the yard, you're obviously quite involved in helping the things behind the scene. You've attracted some really good owners who have become friends of the yard. I think that's what you probably best at as well, not just having clients, but turning them into relationships and friends.
Ryan, you hit the nail on the head. Most of the people in the yard are friends, proper friends. I'm blessed to have Brahm in my life. I'm blessed to have Greg Bortz, Mark Wright, Jan Peskins, Val Phoenix. I can name the rest of the yard as well. And it's just one big happy family. We have our ups and downs, and I put out a few fires because Yvette takes a little bit too long with 1 or 2 horses, but we're very blessed, and we're all trying our best. At the end of the day, the horse does the talking, and I'll leave it to Yvette and Carl.
Well, let's not forget, Headley, you're probably the biggest owner in the yard to a large degree as well.
I think I'm on par with Brahm now. No, I am. At the end of the day, Vet and I own a lot of horses together, legs and arms and feet and hooves and how you want to call it. And it's just about being part of that happy team, winning together, going to sales together, making it all work.
You and Bryn also struck up a great relationship and obviously partners in National Park.
Bryn Wrestle, a superstar. What a nice man, an East Cape boy, a Dalian. Just an absolute gentleman in this game, and we're blessed to have Bryn in our yard and never had a moan. He's been behind us with every move Yvette and Carl have made with National Park, and we're fortunate enough to have those sort of guys in the yard.
Do you know how many winners you've had? Yourself?
No,
Andy
Grant,
McGrath?
no, I don't.
Eh? It must be plenty.
Plenty, yes, Grant. I'm very fortunate. Plenty of involvements, I call it.
Your biggest race that you've won?
My biggest race ever, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with Copper Parade. Early days on my own, and I got Val and Peter Phoenix involved. Legal Eagle, Blazer Fire. I can name a lot. Princess Rebel, a nice cheapie, and so it goes on. And just very fortunate to have some nice horses in my name.
Well, I've got to say, we've never had a dull moment when we visit you guys here in Port Elizabeth. It's a fantastic place for us to come. I always put my name down if I can to come to the big races here, and you guys certainly know how to host.
PE hosts, you know, from Dr. Parker across the road to Nicky Bartlett to the Robertsons that have left racing, which is very sad for all of us, to ourselves. We all have a lot of fun and just try and make it all work. That's what this game's all about. Try and balance the book and have fun.
You've done a great job. We love coming here, and we're certainly going to be following you, especially when you raid the major centres. It's very exciting.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks very much to Headley as well. Great team here out in Port Elizabeth with the Yvette Bremner racing crew, and we look forward to catching up with them on race day tomorrow too. John Freeman Stallions have been performing really well of late, and we look forward to catching up with another update from one of the stallions in his very strong repertoire. I think everybody in the racing industry is waiting very patiently to see when our protocols are sorted and that the gates open up and that we can trade freely with the rest of the world. The man behind that for South Africa is none other than Adrian Todd. And Andrew Bond took time to catch up with Adrian Todd and his team to find out just how we are progressing in that field.
Behind me you will see horses grazing peacefully on these lands with a nice big dam, and they don't have a worry in the world. But the silent killer called African horse sickness is ever present. It's one of the most difficult subjects that I've ever had to deal with because it is so emotional. It is so expensive for South African breeders. There's no level playing field for us. But Adrian Todd has been working tirelessly with a group of very dedicated and very diligent people to try and find a way for the government to negotiate with the OIE and the EU and to make sure that South African horses do get a chance to compete on a level playing field, along with the Australians who are riding the crest of the wave at the moment, and the Kiwis and various other breeding jurisdictions. So without any further ado, let's go and join Adrian Todd, after which we're going to speak to Camilla Veyers, who's a veterinary surgeon involved in exactly the same organization. Adrian Todd is the managing director, and sadly, African horse sickness is not going away.
The reality is we're going to continue having outbreaks in the endemic area. That's, it's endemic. This year there's been 208 cases logged. The most seriously area affected is Gauteng with 144 to date. And that's a lot more than we've had previously, and I think that can be put down to three reasons. There have been late rains. The reporting has gotten much better. So you're having more cases reported than you did in previous years. And the third is the most concerning reason, because there are a number of people using unregistered, unproven vaccines. And, there's a reason they're not registered. So I'd just like to put that across, and it's not in thoroughbreds, but in other disciplines, to encourage people, please use the proper vaccines. They are the ones that are registered and they do work.
I honestly believe that there's a measure of irresponsibility on behalf of some of the people that have had deaths, particularly in the leisure market.
You can definitely say that, and one thing that I think we all have to understand is that there is work in hand to developing better vaccines. That's a very long-term process, but the world has shown interest and that is being developed. From a protocols perspective, we have to protect our controlled zones, and that's why we have the movement controls in place, and that's why we're so strict about them, because there has not been outbreaks in the controlled zones for over 2 years now, and that's what has allowed to get us back up to speed, where we've gotten to the stage meeting with EU requirements, where we're now pushing for them to come here and do an inspection.
I suppose to a certain extent, if you think that the country battles to run its books in terms of accounting, that free enterprise need to embark on a very concerted effort to give guidelines to people that own horses as to how to prevent their horses getting bitten in endemic areas, and exactly why they don't get bitten in free zones because of the climate.
No, definitely, Andrew. And I think the only way that we've managed to achieve what we've have achieved, and the only way that progress can continue to be made, is through a system of public-private partnership between private enterprise and the state.
So are you positive that at this moment in time we're on the right track in terms of the accessibility to the rest of the world with all the tireless work that you've been embarking on with government and the EU?
I am positive. I know that it's been a frustrating and a long road, but I'm positive that we've taken the right steps. Government for the first time are actively involved, and we will get this across the line.
So it's actually incredible courage that has been shown by Mike de Kock, by his patrons that have sent him horses, whether it's been Yulon Prince or Majestic Mambo or Mar Shirtliff and Miranaresco, who've all run on the Dubai World Cup stage tonight, but with an arduous and very testing route.
Definitely, Mike, we've said it many times, he's been a true ambassador for South Africa, and going through that arduous route, imagine what he would have achieved in addition to what he has if he didn't have to do that. I mean, it has to be of benefit, and it will be of benefit for the entire country. And not just looking at thoroughbreds. If South Africa ever wants to host an Olympics, they have to be able to export horses. If South Africa wants to be able to raise up onto the world stage show jumping, dressage, all equine disciplines are going to benefit.
This year, it would appear, as far as social media is concerned, that there have been more incidences of African horse sicknesses. What's your understanding of this increase in incidence of African horse sickness cases?
Well, we could be looking at a number of reasons for this. There's definitely been an increase in awareness and an increase in people actually reporting diseases. Back in the day, people used to just keep it to themselves. The vets never used to report it to the state vets. That side of things has definitely increased, and which is a very good thing, because without the reporting we don't have the awareness. In certain areas of the Eastern Cape and in Gauteng specifically, that there has been an increase in cases this year. There are a number of reasons that could be. It could be the introduction of a strain that possibly is not well covered by the vaccine. It could have been a decrease in the use of our actual registered vaccine that we have in this country. We were made aware of the fact that the sales were down last year. On top of that, we've had the scientific revelation of the fact that this vaccine can in fact cause outbreaks, which unfortunately has decreased its use, although it is an extremely effective vaccine for stopping disease. And because of this, government actually have put in place recommendations that you only use the vaccine responsibly during winter months when the vector of the disease is not as active. And in fact, it is required by law that you may only vaccinate against African horse sickness during those times of months in the controlled area. Now, this could have also put an extra strain on our producer of the vaccine, because they possibly weren't prepared for the fact that they would have to supply an entire country with vaccine during a short period of time. Availability, in other words, yes. The availability could have been a problem. And if we're getting a decrease in the use of this vaccine, it will obviously decrease the protection, overall protection, especially on a herd level, if you're talking about overall herd level immunity. And it could be that people are just not using the vaccine, full stop, on purpose, out of choice.
Well, I think the word affordability comes into play very, very significantly in two spheres. First of all, affordability from the user's perspective. In racehorses, nobody in their right mind would not vaccinate their horse, because it's mandatory, because it's controlled. Your horses live in a finite area. They go to the track without walking through long grass. They're moving all the time, so the likelihood of them being caught by a Culicoides midge is very small compared to that of a horse that roams freely as a person that doesn't have these control measures. And that's obviously very important with regard to the reporting of these cases.
Well, that is, of course, the next thing is that in order to get the virus, the horse actually has to be exposed to the vector, which is the carrier of the virus, being the Culicoides midge. Having certain management principles in place in order to decrease the exposure to the actual midge is obviously going to decrease the chance of your horse getting that virus. Whether it's immune or not will be then irrelevant. If they're not exposed, they're not going to get the virus. It's, of course, easier said than done to completely keep your horse exposed from a midge. Midges are a difficult thing. They are very small. You can definitely decrease the risk of exposure by putting things up like the mesh, insecticide impregnated mesh on your stable and all openings. Stabling the horse, it's not going to completely decrease the exposure, but it will, or it's not going to stop the exposure, but it will decrease the exposure level of your horse. Fans, they're not good flyers, so any kind of air movement is going to help. And of course the use of insect repellents such as DEET, or products that contain DEET, and insecticides, so that you're actually, those that are biting are dying. Yeah. Vaccination is going to help you with your immunity, and then decrease in exposure is going to be your next level. And of course, basic immune health. So the health level or health status of your horse is also going to dictate how if your horse gets infected, how it handles that. If it's in a poor immune state for whatever reason, or infected with something else. For example, pyroplasmosis is one of the tick bite fevers that horses get. That is obviously they're going to struggle to deal with infection at that level then as well.
Would it be fair, as an opinion, to state that there are various countries, whether it's Australia or whether it's New Zealand or any exporting country, that have, so to speak, poisoned people on that European Union board, that things are worse than we are presenting?
Well, I think you're definitely talking to the wrong person on on that side of things. I mean, my
Science.
is science, and I try and stick with that. But certainly, some of the decisions and some of the protocols in place do not tend towards the science. A small thing like only allowing vaccinated horses into the controlled area doesn't support science. A vaccinated horse is no more likely to be infected than a non-vaccinated horse. And let's face it, an unvaccinated horse that is infected is more likely to be visibly showing disease, so less likely to move, actually. But some of the decisions are not based purely on science. And I think that what we should be pushing for is that within our own country, decisions should be based on science and scientific backing, and we should be pushing for that internationally as well.
Well, John Costa, Klavervlei, very proud to be standing the only son of Tappet in South Africa. He's got off to a great start in terms of what he's produced. He managed to get over 20 yearlings on the Cape Premier Yearling Sale. He's also got quite a few that'll be representing him out at the National Yearling Sales come the end of April. Here's an update on what Coup de Gras has achieved thus far.
You know, when you add good looks to racing performance, and in the female line alone, there are 3 reins de course mares, which is massive. Then it is exciting. So I think we've got the whole package. We've got the stallion for sure with Tappet. We've got the mare who was talented, and she herself out of an extremely talented filly. She was champion 4-year-old filly in America. She won the Breeders' Cup. She won 4 Group 1s. She was placed in 6 other Group 1s. I mean, it's huge class, racing class there. And then the mare being by Stormcat. And as we've just spoken about, Stormcat really making his mark as a brood messiah of science.
Well, that's a wrap from us here, and certainly enjoyed bringing you the show from Port Elizabeth. Also some fantastic updates from Adrian Todd and his protocol team. Great excitement. Hopefully we'll be trading in the not too distant future, but we'll be back with Breeding to Win next week, same time on Channel 239.
This is the final chapter of the most illustrious career in racing, and Winks completes the lineup The red light is on, and the crowd are ready to send her off, and the gates open. They're off in the Queen Elizabeth. Massive roar to the crowd. She's going to settle in last, Winks, and Hartnell is first out. Mascot Time's mustering, so's Harlem. Happy Clapper handy. He's Eminence back last. Kluger runs handy fifth, and Winks is moving forward. Bowman wants a better spot. Gets in front of Shillelagh. He's Eminence back second last. Many thought he would lead. Dances last. Mascot Time goes to the mile. Has the lead all on his own here from Harlem, and Hartnell's got the box seat third. 2 off then to the 8-year-old Happy Clapper. 2 further back to Kluger. And there's Winks, 1 off the fence now. Has He's Eminent in a pocket back on the fence. Then came Shillelagh. And Dance, 10 off the leaders last. It's the big roughie. Mascot Time in front of the 1200. Out by 2 lengths on Harlem. Hartnell with a great run third. 2 off to Happy Clapper. Then came Kluger. 3/4 the outside Winks. Very relaxed in the run. Bowman sitting very quiet. He's Eminent back. McDonald just easing back a little bit. It looks as though he's trying to find a way out off the fence. Then came Shillelagh, and Dance last. No surprises yet. They've got 900 to run. Mascot Time a length clear from Harlem. Then Hartnell, Happy Clapper. Now he starts the run on Winks. He's starting to move forward, just shading Kluger. Then He's Eminent still positioned back on the inside of Shillelagh, and Dance coming to the turn. The roughing Mascot Time 2 lengths clear. Hartnell goes to second, giving chase. Now Happy Clapper, and Winks is rounding them up, coming right around the field. Kluger takes an inside run. She's gone for home already, Winks. She beats off Hartnell. Kluger going up the inside. Happy Clapper can't go on. Winks is 2 lengths clear. Kluger sticks on. Then came Hartnell, but she's well clear, Winks, inside the final 100 metres. Today we farewell an Australian icon, the greatest of all time. Winks wins a third. Queen Elizabeth beats Kluger. Hartnell third. Happy Clapper fourth. Then Shillelagh, Mascot Time. Further back to He's Eminent. Not a factor in the race. From Dance, and Harlem finished tailed off.
The story is complete. This is what we wanted. A finale like no other. Remember forever how you feel right now.